What we feel on the inside is an energetic pattern of what we allow into our reality. And if we don't feel good on the inside, we don't believe something's possible, we can't even see it's possible, then guess what? It cannot exist as a reality in our life. You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 304. And today we're going to explore how to amplify your success from the inside out. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Authority Amplifier, Melanie Benson. And today I'm coming to you from my home office in Los Angeles, California, where we've gone from horribly hot weather to perfect 70-degree days. And I got to tell you, I'm a little excited about that because my motivation goes up when I'm not melting. I don't know if you feel the same way I do. And it was causing me to reflect on some things that I've learned since I started my business in 2000 about what it takes to create success, sustainable success. And we're not talking about strategies today. Strategies often are the accelerators once you get these energy boosting tactics in place. And I've been coaching entrepreneurs and myself for 22 years as we're airing this episode. And I realize how many of us are dealing with some common issues around our energy and around our mindset and around our ability to sustain a certain level of motivation, clarity, confidence, focus. And so I want to pull back the curtains a little bit today and share a little bit about something that I discovered in my own journey. It's not perfect, but it helps tremendously, and also share a little bit about some things I've had to overcome, because I think sometimes we see people who have created an extraordinary amount of success and we don't realize what goes into it. And we set up these unrealistic expectations for what our journey should look like. Before I go into these energy boosting tactics, if you will, let me just share a resource that I want you to stop right now and go get before we move on. And this is my 7-step framework to add another 6 figures to your business this year. This is my exact blueprint that I've been using since I started my business in 2000 to amplify my impact in the world through my own business superpower. And I know a lot of people struggle with, how do I monetize the thing I do well? How do I get people to understand what I do? How do I consistently create these 6 and 7 figure revenues that other people are doing so effortlessly? Well, this is the blueprint. And I unpacked the whole thing at amplifywithmelanie.com. I would love to guide you into a more sustainable way to grow your business this year through this 7-step framework. So amplifywithmelanie.com. I'll unpack each of the 7 strategies. Plus, I got a bonus one for you. And all of it is going to be amplified through what we talk about today. So amplifywithmelanie.com. Now, let's talk about what I've discovered around amplifying your success from the inside out. This is a quote that I learned many years ago. And I remember sitting in, I used to organize these monthly events, and I would bring an expert in, and I would have them teach to an audience that I would curate. And I remember hearing this guy talking about how success is an inside game. And at that time, I was still really chasing strategies and thinking, there's something I've got to figure out on the outside. And as he was talking, I remember at the time, the coach that worked with me in my business looked at me and he's like, we got to do this training. And this was my mentor, the man that became my mentor for many years, who taught neurolinguistic programming. And NLP, if you're not familiar with that, is a way of recoding the way our neurons fire. And there's so much to this that I didn't even understand at the time, but I had my entire life struggled with something I didn't even understand, but that I now get was anxiety and depression And I had a long-standing pattern of like looking outside of myself for ways to become what I wanted, right? I thought something on the outside had to change. And what I didn't understand at the time is that everything that was going on inside of me, the internal conflicts, the limiting beliefs, the fear, was actually holding me back. So I've taught a lot over the years about the three gremlins that I think really steal our success. But what I didn't know then that I now know is that there was a undercurrent that was very repressed, that was a fuel for my ambition. I had a very deeply traumatic and repressed childhood trauma that I had no idea was the actual culprit. So it wasn't until much later as an entrepreneur, we get to use our business as a deep learning opportunity. I uncovered a lot of this through a lot of deep work. And I share that because I have clients over the years who have struggled with trauma, mostly repressed trauma, and it acted like a derailer that they could never really get those higher levels of success. And so I would experience waves of high joy followed by horrible lack of focus and motivation. Like I would lose my confidence, and then I would have these huge bursts of great successes. And part of this that I learned in the NLP training that was so valuable was my fuel for success was about moving away from what I didn't want. Okay, I want to say that again. It was always fueled by moving away from what I didn't want. So, and this is, again, a very common thing that happens for my clients is there's this deep motivation to not have something in our life, which is not a sustainable success pattern. And so we move away just enough to experience the thing we think we want, only to recreate it on a very subconscious level. So the number one thing that I discovered along the way was the importance of mindset. And mindset being how we fuel our success through our thought patterns, through healing thought patterns and wounds and traumas that are acting like huge sieves that just keep pulling us back into pain and doubt and fear. Because if you don't heal the trauma, you can't really ever, it's like that rubber band. You can only pull it so far before you get snapped back into the original shape. And that's because trauma is deeply, it literally reconfigures all of our neural pathways to be in avoidance mode. And so I'm not a trauma specialist. I'm not going to deep dive into trauma today, but we are going to be pulling some trauma specialists in because I'm finding that there are different kinds of traumas, big T, big trauma, little trauma, that really have wreaked havoc on people's mindset. And I want to bring some more resources into the conversation here. So that's a little bit of background. And I share that because a lot of people are starting to talk about their anxieties, their depression, their neurodiversity, and how that's been playing out for them. And I think we need the tools on the inside to create a stronger container so that when we are moving out into the world as change makers and thought leaders and authorities to support other people through our work, we have a more sustainable energy source. Because what happens is if you aren't dealing with these things and you're not doing the inner stuff, then guess what? You are not going to have a sustainable energy source. And that's what I discovered because I hadn't really fixed the real problem. I was having the rubber band snap back quite a bit. So my recipe, and again, this is not perfection, but this is about making progress every day, is recognizing that I needed a more sustainable energy source. I had to reprogram a lot of old patterns and wounds. I had to dig deeper than I ever thought I would have to really understand where some of my gaps were. But I also needed better tools to understand my patterning and my own unique blueprint for how I make decisions in the world, for how I need to make like how I check for alignment and things like that. So I want to be really clear. This is never going to be a one-time fix. Most of us who deal with any kind of this unsustainable energy, we've got trauma, we've got depression, anxiety. This is a lifelong commitment and a routine intention, like a real commitment to create a high vibe container inside of us so that success can magnetize in more easily and readily. So what we feel on the inside literally becomes an energetic pattern, an energetic frequency for what can come into our reality. And I truly believe that when we have low vibration, we attract and we magnetize in these low vibration experiences outside of ourselves, because that's like what we allow. That's what we see. It's what we've gotten used to. It's a pattern. And if we're not feeling good, whether that's physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that is, we're not going to see something as possible that's a higher frequency for where we are now. And I've seen this in myself. In 2010, I started having massive health problems. I didn't really understand it, but it was a lot of the stress-related damage that was starting to accumulate in my body. And when everything started going wacky in my health, I couldn't see anything clearly. It's almost like somebody brought the fog machine in and just fog was pumping into my brain all the time. And so I wasn't really going to be able to take action that was a big, bold action from that energetic space. So what I want to share with you are the 6 things that have radically improved my ability to do big things, to be consistent. Again, not perfectly, but much more so than I was for a while. And that create this internal high vibration that allows for a higher vibration of success on the outside. And whether you have the big trauma, the little trauma, or you've just been noticing you're kind of pushing yourself so hard that you're not feeling it lately, I think there will be something in this conversation today. So I want to start with a pattern around eating and nutrition. And I'm going to share a couple of resources with you that have been life-altering for me. I have found that eating clean, which means choosing very intentionally not to have food come into my body that is known to be a low vibrational food. Okay, this may sound terrifying to you. I had coached somebody for almost 10 years now, and we had lots of conversations about this. And it wasn't until she got a few other people saying the same thing, and then a doctor finally saying the same thing. She goes, "Oh my God, I wish I would have listened to you earlier," because food is a very powerful energy shifter. And when you're eating clean, when you're eating for a vibration that you want to have as a high vibration, it's a very different experience than if you're eating low vibration food. So I don't want to get into what nutrition is today, but let me just say, if you're eating things that you don't feel good, like you're eating lots of sugar, you're having lots of caffeine, you're eating lots of processed foods, chances are you're probably not eating for high vibration. You're probably eating out of comfort and a satiation of your stress, your anxiety, or your fear. That's just kind of like a big well-known thing about comfort foods, right? And so I chose to shift my energy. So part of this was because my doctors were saying, look, if you don't stop eating gluten and the things you're allergic to, you're never going to get better. So I finally just was like, okay, boom, I'm going to do this. I love wine. It's one of my favorite experiences on this planet, to enjoy a beautiful glass of red wine. I rarely drink anymore. And part of that is because I'm really calling in an energy that I know that will allow more of my intuition and a deeper connection to my source. And it's also just feeling better, like having a less foggy head. So I've really deeply committed to clean eating. I primarily eat paleo. I always eat gluten-free and dairy-free. And it's made a world of difference in my energy, in my health. A lot of my chronic symptoms have gone away. I was even getting arthritis. So it's kind of crazy how much our food sources are affecting, our food choices are affecting our well-being and our ability to function at a higher vibration. So that's something you might want to look at for yourself and check in for yourself. The second thing, and this has been hard for me, Okay, there's a lot of stuff I've had to overcome to do number 2, and that is to boost my energy every day with exercise. Now, I've always walked, except for the time I broke my toe, which kind of was a weird thing, but I've always walked every day. I have a dog. I got a dog for a lot of reasons to kind of encourage me to have daily walks. But I really had to up my game and change some patterns to get with a routine that I could sustain around daily walks. I love yoga, doing yoga, because yoga really gives me good high vibration energy. But the one thing I had to bring back in, which I did a lot earlier in my life, was weights. And I got to give a shout out to a dear friend of mine, Angela Foster. She is a high performance coach for highly ambitious women. And she has just given me so many great insights. I'll hook you up with her Instagram account here in the show notes. And she was a guest many years ago on the show here. I will also hook back up that that interview I did with her, because she has so much insight and so much knowledge about women at different stages of their age, and what that means in the body changes and how you have to shift what you do for eating and energy boosting. Like, she taught me how to work out very differently for my current age, which is postmenopausal, than I did when I was younger. And it's really made a huge difference around my weight, around my attitude. And here's what I notice, and she really reinforces this message too, is when you choose to fuel your body through these kinds of pattern changes, you actually give yourself energy. And when you're not exercising and you're not eating clean, you're actually stealing your sustainable energy. Okay, another good friend of mine who talks a lot about this, she's kind of moved a lot of her focus into manifestation stuff, but got to give a little shout out to my friend JJ Flazanes, who's also really insightful with a lot of her connection between physical expression, manifesting, and success. So she's also been a great support along the way. So clean eating, energy boosting exercise. So everybody's a little different. And if you don't know what works for you, I'm not going to tell you, it's not my place, but I would highly recommend finding out what is energy boosting for you. Is it daily walks? Do you need to run? Are you the person that needs to go hike and get into nature? So my sister, it used to be yoga, but then when she moved into the Northwest, she really, like, hiking every day in the morning for an hour is her thing. Like, she gets up early, she goes for a nature walk, and that's what gives her that energy boost and getting her mind right. The third thing is, I'm going to go into the physical for a minute, and it's body work. Okay, I have basically done almost everything you can imagine around body work to help release stuck energy in my body. See, we hold on to energy in our body. We hold on to messages in our body. We actually hold into trauma in our body. And one of the most powerful things you can do is choose body work that's very clearing for you. So for me, I sit at my computer a lot. Just a real basic thing is massage. I get a massage every 3 to 4 weeks routinely. And I know that might sound a little crazy, and you might think that's not even in my budget. There's so many great massage options these days. I know you're going to be able to find something that works for you. If you cannot do massage, do Epsom salt baths. That is another energy clearing way to get your body to release trauma in your, so Epsom salts with a little bit of lavender or whatever essential oils. I know it sounds a little woo, but it is very valuable. But I've also done things that were really extraordinary, like clearing unseen energy out of my field. Like, again, might be a little woo, but I got to tell you, I have had noticeable pattern shifts, noticeable transformation. The person that I've used most often is a woman named Lisa Thomas. I kind of explored and experimented with other people along the way, but she's been a tried and true, very valuable part of my healing and transformation. I have a trauma around fire. And so when we had the fires come through the backyard of my home, 2 months after we bought our new home here in near Westlake, California, I had to do some energy clearing, and she cleared some stuff out. And I went from like literally being in meltdown mode to getting like I was completely clear of it all right after our session. So she's extraordinary. And so whether it's Lisa or someone else, I highly recommend finding somebody. If you've got repeated patterns and you can't get out of a funk or a meltdown mode, chances are you might have something going on that's in an energy field that you can't see, and it's very powerful to get that cleared. Number 4, I want to talk about energy amplifying. Okay, so there's all different kinds of things that you can do here, but one of the basics that I find very helpful is acupuncture. Okay, you could also do Reiki. There's so much body work out there that's helpful. There's people who specialize in like clearing trauma out of the body, but energy amplifying, to me, I think sometimes we just need extra support, and sometimes we need to go to specialists to help us produce energy that we can't make on our own. So it might be you need to do some acupuncture for a while. Maybe that you need to commit to a dietitian or somebody who can help teach you how to eat for your body type, right? Like whatever you need to do, find a way to amplify your energy by getting specialty support that will kind of like release energy blocks and get energy flowing in your body again. Let me talk about the mental now. There's 2 things that I found extraordinarily valuable. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about mental support through therapy. If you're dealing with something that is a trauma, I really, there's a lot of techniques that will help you override the patterns of the trauma, but won't necessarily clear the trauma. And I think it's an important distinction. And I'm all for getting yourself to function I've been a high function trauma survivor most of my life. I just didn't know it. And the cost of being a highly functioning trauma sufferer is that you always have a crack that pulls you back in. And so I had to start going a little bit deeper with this. So to clear the patterns, I did therapy for many years, but I found neurolinguistic programming with a trained NLP therapist very helpful to move me out of the patterns. But like I said, it didn't resolve the trauma, but it did help me function at a much higher capacity. And it stopped me from sinking back in when I would get triggered on things. And it gave me a different resource pattern where I could shift the way I think and start getting better results. So I have found that invaluable in the 20 years that I've been a higher functioning entrepreneur, to really understand mindset, understand like belief systems and how they act like a compass for our actions, to understand the depth of our fears and how to like stop letting fears override me. But if you have trauma, there are 2 things that I find extraordinarily valuable. EMDR, it's about rapid eye movement and changing the way your brain works through using eye movement. It is a specialty for PTSD and different traumas. So I've used that over the years. I've had a little bit of success with that, but what's really helped me was something called internal family systems, often referred to as IFS. It's a trauma work based on a series or a book, The Body Keeps the Score. And if you don't know about that book and you have trauma or you suspect you might have trauma, it's very powerful. It's hard to read, but it's very powerful. So last thing, and let me just say one more thing about trauma. I know it's hard to talk about, and I think pretty much everybody on the planet has had some trauma. And it's when we start to realize that when we can have compassion and understanding for our own journey and sensitivity to the fact that there's a lot of traumatized people walking around on this planet, I think we might see a really extraordinary shift of how relationships function on this planet. Deep unhealed trauma is basically like you're like a walking time bomb. So if you suspect this is going on for you or someone you care about, like really creating a safe place to bring this mindset support into your life is going to be life altering. 6, and this has been extraordinary for me, again, a little bit with NOP, but it's alignment support. So once we get the other pieces into place, I highly recommend that you start coming back to what's really in alignment for me. So when things are sustainable, it's because they're coming from a place of alignment with your most authentic desires, passions, and superpowers. And it's hard to know what those are if you have the other things going on, because those will kind of override your most authentic way of being. Like your true self won't be able to fully express because it's like you got all these blankets packed on top of you. But a couple of things that have really been helpful for me, coaching for one thing. I've been coached as much as I coach others. And I really feel that all coaches should have coaches, because if we're not doing our own work, it's very hard to really be our best selves for our clients. But also human design. Human design is so extraordinary. It's such a big part of, it's basically intrinsic in us. It's like, it's based on our birth pattern, our birth blueprint. But I found so many valuable insights and tools through understanding my human design, also with my clients' human design. And a big part of it was decision making, really learning to trust my decision making and honoring that my blueprint is a highly emotional blueprint. So a lot of my authority, my ability to fully express comes from recognizing where I need to make a decision in the arc of my emotions. So I have a few friends that are really good with human design. Samantha Riley, who's my co-host with Next Level Influence podcast. She's brilliant at human design. Human design is becoming more and more popular. So there's a lot of resources out there, but I will hook up the place where I got my human design read. And I will also share how we use human design in Amplify Inner Circle, which is my coaching program. We're now getting a human design reading and a blueprint for everybody, because I want people to understand the basic infrastructure of where they make decisions, what their authority arc is, and really just understanding where they're at on their journey. It's just very illuminating. So these are some of the things that I've been doing. Like I said, I have done so much. Like I have basically tried almost every modality on the planet, trying to be the best version of myself and to clear out things that I had no control over that affected my ability to function at the highest vibration. And what I know is this: a high vibration is so energetically magnetic, whether it's prosperity or it's the kind of clients we want to work with, or opportunity or friendship or relationship. Everything in my life transformed when I stopped operating out of the trauma frequencies that I was in for so many years and was completely in my blind spot. I had no other understanding for it. And even as I started to become a more successful entrepreneur, still operating out of a lot of those trauma patterns, there was a vibration that I wasn't aware of that wasn't sustainable. And so doing this deep work has given me first of all, it's deepened my compassion. It's truly deepened who I am as a coach, and holding a container that has such a different framework than I did as an early coach, but also like giving me tools and awareness that I never knew was possible. So in a way, I'm grateful that it took me a little while to get here, because I have an appreciation for it. But I hope that sharing this with you today is giving you a new possibility to A, clear out some patterns that may not be serving you, but B, create a more sustainable approach to success by amplifying your success from the inside out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this week's episode. Share it wherever social media we're connected, or you can give a little shout out on the show page. Give it a rating and review in wherever you're listening. I'd just love to hear what you took away from this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. Be sure to join us right now in the Amplify Your Authority community at authorityamplifiers.com, and I'll share my 7 proven tips to be a highly paid expert that stands out in a crowded market. Plus, we're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.